back to the Daily Grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back pickle biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And Amanda Nunes is set to defend her title for the third time versus Raquel Pennington at UFC 224 in Rio. This is going to be a dope fight. It's in Brazil. Amanda Nunes, of course, is going to be somewhat at home, even though, Brazil versus, Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes was talked about for this card. Speaking of Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes, even though if that were to happen, Cyborg would be more at home because, I believe Amanda Nunes is looked as a Creante or her coaches, according to Cyborg. They had that back and forth. They made it seem like it was Cyborg at home versus Amanda Nunes, the traitor, because Amanda Nunes does live in America and all of that. But still, Amanda Nunes is a Brazilian champion, and she's going to be at home fighting against Raquel Pennington. And now, with that being said, speaking of Chris Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes, I gotta give a little smoke to Mega Monkey, day one hitter-ish. Now, I might have to redo that fantasy fight if you keep testing my credibility, dog. I low-key seen you. I said on my video where I told you guys Amanda Nunes versus Chris Cyborg is canceled. He said, I haven't seen any articles about it being canceled. Did you jump the gun? Come on, dog. No, what the fuck you talking about? I ain't jumped the gun. Chris Cyborg got announced as the headliner of UFC 222, which, changes the plans. We were all hearing about Amanda Nunes versus Chris Cyborg, champion versus champion, super fight next. Well, if Chris Cyborg fights Yana Kanutakaya and loses her belt, the plans are off. And it's not likely to happen. Chris Cyborg's very likely to win the fight, and if that does happen, we could still see Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes at UFC 226 or down the line. But as of right now, the fight is canceled, and this even more so proves it. UFC needed a headliner for UFC 224, maybe 2 title fights. I mean, the UFC usually stacks the Brazilian cards, but Amanda Nunes versus Raquel Pennington is at least one of the title fights that will now be on the card. And this was reported by Combate, which is like the Brazilian MMA fighting. You're not going to really ever see any fake news on Combate. As far as everything they've reported usually comes to fruition, especially with the Brazilian cards and champion fighters. So this is as real as it's going to get until the UFC announces it. And with that being said, Raquel Pennington's also got a chance of taking Amanda Nunes' belt. As this is MMA, anything can happen. If Raquel Pennington does win this fight, Amanda Nunes versus Chris Cyborg, champion versus champion, is off. So as of right now, Chris Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes is canceled until both of these champions, if both of these champions win both of their fights, come out unscathed, and then make the fight happen. But with that being said, this is going to be a dope fight. Amanda Nunes versus Raquel Pennington. It was already talked about happening before, but Raquel Pennington was in a hunting accident or an ATV accident, I believe. Someone said her leg was like almost damn near needed amputated and some stuff in the comments, but I mean, I didn't hear about that anywhere else. But even if it did, maybe it was just like hyperbole, like, if it was 1 inch to the left, her leg would have needed amputated or something. I don't know what happened really, but I do know that the fight was being discussed until Raquel Pennington had that accident and injury. But with this, May 9th is when UFC 224 is, so it's looking like Raquel Pennington will have had enough time to heal up her leg injury and be able to fight in the main event versus Amanda Nunes. But as I said, the UFC has not announced it. It has been reported on Combate. Both fighters have verbally agreed, and so you can read the paragraph at the bottom. That was translated from Combate, and they say that it's essentially set. Now, with that being said, one interesting thing about this fight, and it doesn't really mean anything, it's just interesting to point out, both of these fighters are openly gay UFC fighters, and it's going to be Amanda Nunes, the first openly gay female fighter champion, and Raquel Pennington, who's also, I don't know if she was the first in MMA or in the UFC or not, but I know she's also open about it. Both of them also have spouses inside the UFC. Wouldn't that be crazy? Like if you had Amanda Nunes and Raquel Pennington and then both of their spouses fighting on the undercard. That would be some crazy shit, like super entertaining, interesting shit. But, they're probably going to be in their corners, and that's probably too much to ask. But I'm just saying that would be crazy. With that being said, though, great fight. I know a lot of people are already complaining about this fight, saying, wow, this card is, this card's understacked. We don't even know the rest of the card, and people are saying this card sucks. So that just shows you all of the fucking complainers that are MMA fans. And I wonder how many of these fucking complainers are the complainers that complain about Tyron Woodley complaining, fucking complainers. With that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you're complaining about, or what they're man, if you're gonna complain about the card, wait till the card is announced. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I think this is a dope fight. There's also a couple other dope fights on the card. One of them specifically, I can't think of, but another fight that was announced, Brazilian up-and-coming star, possibly Paulo Costa versus Uriah Hall. I'll talk about that just real quick. Uriah Hall, you know, was supposed to fight Vitor Belfort, messed up at the weigh-ins, had the seizure, scary incident. After that, lost the fight versus Vitor Belfort. Now, since he botched that fight, it's like the UFC's putting him against a fucking young Brazilian Thundercat. You had the chance with Vitor, messed up that opportunity. Now you got Paulo Costa. That's going to be a great fight, though. Don't count Uriah Hall out. He's lost some of his last 4 fights, but I mean, he's been fighting some of the top competition in the UFC middleweight division. So with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking DOWG.